Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore who Ratma is. One of the creepiest, most mysterious, and bizarre creatures or entities we've seen in the VHS movie series, and especially in its latest installment, VHS 94, is the grotesque, being known as Ratma. This creature appears to be a hybrid between a rat and a human. Moreover, it seems to possess incredible abilities and powers, which has led it to gather a group of followers who worship it as a deity. These people live with Ratma in the sewers of the town of Westerville. Due to the mystery surrounding this monster, its unique and bizarre characteristics, and the fact that it is revered by a community as a kind of benevolent god, Ratma is considered by many VHS fans to be one of the best monsters in the series. For this reason, in this video, I will delve into the story and origins of the Rat Man from VHS 94. I will provide a full summary of the segment where it appears, discuss its physical appearance, what we know about its personality and behavior, and share a personal theory that might explain what the Rat Man really is. The segment, titled Storm Drain, begins with a retro-style news broadcast, suggesting that it takes place in the early 1990s, when the internet was just starting to become a novelty for the general public. In the broadcast, the commentators discuss a local news story from the town of Westerville, where many residents have reported sightings of a mysterious figure known as the Rat Man or Ratma. According to rumors, this creature is an animal hybrid that lives in the town's sewers and only comes out at night. It's said that if someone shines a flashlight or light source on it, the creature mysteriously vanishes without a trace. The scene shifts to Holly Marciano, a Channel 6 reporter investigating the Rat Man rumors. She suggests that it could either be an urban legend or perhaps a real creature lurking in the sewers. Holly interviews several people, including an elderly man who recounts a night when he heard strange noises coming from a nearby sewer. When he looked inside, he saw the creature staring back at him menacingly, as if he were an intruder. Holly also speaks with a young couple at a skate park who believe the Rat Man is not a monster, but rather a patient who escaped from a nearby psychiatric hospital. They think this man lives in the sewers and attacks people to avoid being recaptured. Holly even shows a sketch based on witness descriptions, depicting what the Rat Man might look like. A local pastor is also interviewed. He claims that the Rat Man is a sign from God about the end times, and that sinners and elitists will face divine punishment. Lastly, a hunter states that he saw the creature near a river connected to the sewers. After these interviews, Holly and her cameraman, Jeff, are instructed by their boss, Barry, to record footage at the sewer entrance. Although Holly initially resists, she eventually agrees. While filming, they notice a man armed with a weapon watching them from a distance, which makes them nervous. Despite this, they proceed to record. During the process, Jeff sees something in the darkness of the sewer and decides to investigate. He finds personal belongings and signs of life, including a stuffed rabbit, old clothes, and an improvised bed. Holly becomes excited about creating a full report on sewer life, believing it will be both popular and controversial. As they explore further, they discover a black, oily liquid resembling crude oil. Jeff notices that part of the sewer walls is covered with what looks like organic tissue. An eye suddenly opens within this tissue, scaring Jeff and causing him to drop the camera. Shortly after, they encounter a man covered in mud or some black substance. Holly tries to talk to him, but he responds with only one word, Ratma. This leaves Holly bewildered, and she asks if he is the Rat Man. This is where the segment begins to delve deeper into the mystery of this strange entity and its connection with the followers who revere it. Bill simply turns around and spits out a grotesque black liquid from his mouth while giving a macabre smile. This unsettles Holly and Jeff, prompting Holly to hand him her business card before quickly running off with Jeff. At that moment, they hear a strange noise, making them run even faster. Simultaneously, they hear a loud, terrifying roar. Jeff runs ahead and loses sight of Holly for a moment. However, Just as he decides not to turn back and plans to escape the area, he is ambushed and knocked out by the men living in the sewers. Next, we see Holly waking up in a part of the drainage system, surrounded by the vagrants or strange men who are staring intently at her. Nervous, she stands up and tells them she knows people who can help them find temporary housing so they can stabilize their lives financially. She also mentions that she is working on a story about them to show the world that they are good and normal people who just need a little help. Holly promises to share all their stories on television. However, a man who turns out to be the pastor or priest of the church interrupts her. He tells Holly they don't need her help because they will tell their story themselves. At this point, Jeff wakes up, but the strange men restrain him. Here, we get a better look at the Reverend, who calls out to a creature hiding inside a drainage pipe. The strange creature appears frightened by the light, so the Reverend asks for it to be turned off. Then, in a caring tone, he coaxes the monster to come to them. Eventually, the creature emerges, revealing itself as Ratma, the Rat Man. It growls menacingly and spits out a peculiar black liquid, similar to what we saw earlier in the sewer. Interestingly, this liquid is collected in a small container. The Reverend then takes the liquid and throws it in Jeff's face while proclaiming Ratma's name. The liquid kills Jeff brutally, literally melting his face. The Reverend approaches Holly and mockingly says, "Did you want to make a report about this?" Desperate, Holly pleads for her life. The Reverend responds curiously, saying that perhaps she doesn't yet understand everything, but is witnessing the beginning of a new era in which only the righteous will rise. He also mentions that Jeff wasn't worthy, but she might be. Perhaps because of all the sins she has committed, she can still be saved. The scene cuts to show Holly being dragged toward Ratma. There, they bring her closer to the peculiar entity. The pastor picks up the camera and says that the time has come to see if Holly will be accepted into this new world. We then see Ratma approaching her. The pastor comments that it is not his place to repay evil with evil. That is for the wrath of his God to decide. The creature gets even closer to Holly and begins to vomit or spit black liquid onto her face and body. Desperate, Holly screams, asking why this is happening to her and pleading for help from God. The scene abruptly shifts back to the news broadcast. Here, the original anchor says that everyone at the station is thrilled to have reporter Holly Marciano back after she was trapped in a storm drain. Quick clips show Holly being pulled out of the drain, looking confused and deeply disturbed. The anchor comments that the footage is somewhat unsettling and goes on to report that, unfortunately, cameraman Jeff has not yet been found by authorities. Next, the anchor interviews Holly and says everyone is happy to have her back. It is revealed that Holly is now the station's lead anchor. She mentions that fall has just begun and there's no better way to celebrate than with the local pumpkin festival. Strangely, Holly talks about activities related to Ratma, such as Ratmamanias and Ratma apples. She also mentions a contest to crown the biggest Ratma. Suddenly, Holly starts drooling the same black liquid and then spits or vomits it onto the anchor, grotesquely and brutally melting him. The man morbidly tears off his own face while Holly, either confused or in a trance, quickly recomposes herself and changes the subject, transitioning to the sports news. She wishes the Ohio State Buckeyes good luck in their next game. Finally, Holly signs off by saying, "I'm Holly Marciano with Channel 6. Hail Ratma." This concludes the story of the Rat Man in VHS 94. After covering all of this, I want to share a personal theory about what this being truly is. Then, I'll analyze its physical appearance and what we know about its personality and behavior throughout the short film. The segment seems to give us some important clues about what the Rat Man might really be. Before recapping these clues, I'd like to point out a cool reference that appears in the short. The elderly man interviewed mentions that the Rat Man looked at him menacingly, like an evil clown, a clear nod to the famous Pennywise. This comparison emphasizes how disturbing the encounter was for the man, something that undoubtedly left a lasting impression on him. The first clue about this entity comes from the church's reverend or pastor, who claims that he believes the Ratman is a sign from Jesus and the end of times, as it is time for sinners and elitists to pay for all the wrong they have done. Later, in the sewers, it is the same reverend who lures the Ratman, and interestingly, he appears to be the only one who is not completely deranged or in a catatonic state. He simply states that everything is done in Ratma's name, and that a new era is beginning. When he brings Holly before the Ratman, he tells her that perhaps her many sins are what will save her, as her companion Jeff was not worthy of serving Ratma. Based on these details, I initially thought the Ratman was a demonic entity that had managed to take a physical form. However, after rewatching this short film several times and analyzing it in depth, I concluded that the Ratman is not actually a demonic entity, but rather a strange mutation resulting from a failed experiment attempting to combine human DNA with that of a rodent. The resulting creature may have escaped or, due to its failure, was discarded into the sewers of this location. Subsequently, this being was discovered by the people of Westerville and the corrupt reverend, who saw the strange creature as a physical manifestation of God and the end of times, likely influenced by his strong religious beliefs. It's possible that the Ratman spat the black liquid on the Reverend, which, besides being an acidic substance, might also function as a sort of hallucinogen. This could have led the Reverend to believe that his thoughts were true and that this creature was a supernatural being destined to judge the unworthy. This is why, according to my theory, the pastor began recruiting vagrants and people who came to the church seeking help, so they could serve the Ratman and be judged directly by him. According to the Reverend, this process is straightforward. If a person is very sinful, they can be saved through the monster's black liquid. However, it's implied that this is not the case. We can assume the pastor's theory is flawed, and it might be that the liquid is not as potent after being expelled many times by the Ratman. Alternatively, it's possible that some individuals are immune to the corrosive nature of the substance, which is why they do not die upon contact. Even so, the substance seems to have the ability to drive people insane upon contact, leading them to worship the Ratman as a sort of deity. At the same time, it appears to infect them in some way, which would explain why the so-called initiates can vomit or spit this strange liquid. I also conclude that this black liquid is the source of all the Ratman's mutations. This would explain why the creature continuously expels the substance, and justify the appearance of an eye in a grotesque fleshy mass shown in the camping tent. This detail reinforces the theory that the black liquid is directly related to the Ratman's mutations and strange biology. According to my theory, this explains not only the existence of the Ratman, but also why it has a group of loyal subjects who serve it faithfully. The Ratma, or Ratman, is a chilling creature because it looks extremely unnatural and abominable. It has some physical characteristics of both rats and humans. Overall, it has a humanoid appearance with 2 arms and 2 legs that, while similar to those of a human, are much longer than normal and end in claw-like appendages. Interestingly, the creature typically moves in a quadrupedal posture and, despite its humanoid body, is never seen standing completely upright. On its chest and abdomen, the Ratman has something resembling udders, similar to those of female dogs after giving birth to feed their newborn pups. On its back, it has spike-like protrusions emerging from the rear of its shoulders, seemingly made of bone. Its head is its most chilling and memorable physical feature. It is somewhat elongated, resembling that of a xenomorph, but also has very visible human-like features, including a seemingly normal nose, large, entirely black eyes, and curiously straight, humanoid teeth. Because it lacks lips, when the creature closes its mouth, it appears to be constantly smiling in a macabre way. It also has whiskers protruding from the sides of its nose and mouth, similar to those of rodents, giving it an even more animalistic and bizarre appearance. A sinister quality of the Ratman is its ability to open its mouth and lower jaw unnaturally wide when expelling the black or mutagenic liquid that its body produces. This makes it even more terrifying and grotesque. All these characteristics, combined with the fact that we see very little of the creature and hear its strange noises and roars, are why many VHS fans, myself included, consider the Ratman one of the best monsters in this film series. The Ratman doesn't seem to have a hostile personality or be inherently malevolent. Instead, it behaves like a confused and frightened animal, a true abomination. It shies away from light and acts as if it's in an unfamiliar environment. In reality, it is its followers who act maliciously, luring people with the substance the creature expels and trying to convert them into worshippers of the Ratman. Finally, the Ratman seems to have an important ability. The black substance it produces, which is highly corrosive and can quickly harm or kill people by dissolving and destroying organic tissue. It is also implied that this substance is a potent mutagen and hallucinogen. Furthermore, the Ratman doesn't appear to be immortal or invulnerable, as it is suggested that it can die through conventional means, such as gunfire or strong blows, since it is merely an organic abomination and not an immortal demonic entity. This segment or short film was written and directed by young filmmaker Chloe Okuno, who mentioned that she was inspired by a news story from Alabama a few years ago, where many people claim to have seen a leprechaun in their neighborhood sewers. She also drew inspiration from urban legends about monsters inhabiting drains, like giant alligators. This concept always fascinated her, which is why she decided to write the short film about a similar creature. Chloe Okuno also revealed that for the design of the Ratman, she collaborated with the talented Hollywood concept artist Kit Thompson, who designed the Jotun monster in The Ritual and worked with Guillermo del Toro on Crimson Peak. Together, they created the concept of the Ratman from scratch and planned how it should look and move. The director stated that they took inspiration from the Brundlefly in David Cronenberg's The Fly, as they wanted the Ratman to be terrifying but also tragic. She also revealed that the Ratman's head was heavily inspired by the xenomorph design in Alien, which explains its elongated, humanoid shape and the constant secretion of black liquid. In general, the creature was brought to life using practical effects, which contributes to its terrifying, realistic, and impressive appearance. This is everything we know about the Ratman from VHS 94. Personally, I found it to be an incredible concept, especially the way it was introduced in the first short film with Holly and Jeff, who are skeptical of the local legend and think it's all nonsense. I loved the short's format, presented as if it were an old news recording with realistic testimonies from people and the reporter interviewing them. I was also fascinated by the grotesque and strange design of the monster, which is definitely something you wouldn't want to encounter in a sewer or a dark alley. Overall, I think this short was one of the best in VHS 94, although I also believe the Strigoi vampire segment is amazing. But let me know your opinion in the comments. Did you know about the Ratman from VHS 94? Were you familiar with its story and possible origins? What other stories or monsters from VHS would you like us to cover on the channel? And finally, do you agree with my theory about the Ratman, or do you have another one? Share your thoughts and answers in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and share it to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.